Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Wealthy Lightworker. Today, I am so pleased to bring you Ananda Finnikin. Ananda is amazing. She's an author, she's an abundance alchemist, a spiritual catalyst, intuitive soul coach, and author of The Alchemy of Miracles. Ananda, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited, Colleen.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started with what we always start with, a nice deep breath together. So deep breath in. Awesome. And as you guys know, the intention there is just to bring us into this moment so that we can really, so that Ananda and I can really serve to bring some wisdom to the table today. And then also, so for you at home watching, so you can be really present and able to download whatever's shared today and whatever's meant for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So I love the name of our interview today is Abundance Alchemy. So many of us have heard of alchemy, but maybe there's some watching who haven't. They're not familiar with what kind of the more modern idea of what alchemy is. So could you share that with us?
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny that you use the word modern too, because the way that I approach alchemy is probably more old school in the sense, whereas, obviously not transmuting like lead into gold, which is right. Where people's minds like at
That's
first
what I meant, yeah.
But alchemy is basically the art of transference or transmutation or transformation. So it's just whenever you take, an energy of any kind. So if you have like lack, you want to alchemize that and you can transform that into prosperity or abundance. You just want to change your experience by changing your energy. And so that's ultimately what I guess the modern day approach to alchemy is. So like if anybody isn't familiar with it, I think that's probably the most basic explanation that I could give.
That's great. So and I want to jump into that a little bit deeper, but before we do, I'm always curious to find out how you found yourself in this position as, an author, an abundance alchemist. How did you find yourself? What's your story? How'd you get here?
Mm-hmm. It's been a long, long journey and really just figuring out who I am. So whenever I tell my story, it's usually one of just saying I didn't just start a business and start doing this. It was more of a process of learning who I am as a person, growing, building upon my story. So I know you're familiar with my story, but I started from a place of deep, deep depression. There was a point in my life where I was pregnant with my second child. I almost died giving birth to her. I was told that I might not make it out of that. She was in the hospital for 2 months. And while she was in the hospital, my grandfather was murdered. And it was just there was just a lot going on at that time. And while all of this was going on, I was also having these sort of spiritual awakenings, through my dreams, and just all of these things that were happening outside of me seemed to be more of a spiritual reflection, almost a spiritual warfare. I would have the craziest, most insane dreams. And I would come out of my dreams with solutions to my problems, in real life. And it was an insane time. And so I just started, I dipped down into a really dark place. I remember at one point, a friend of mine asking me what I was going to do the next day. She was like, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I had to hang up the phone with her because the thought of tomorrow made me cry. I balled up in the middle of the floor and I cried like a baby. And I remember my 3-year-old at the time, she was just like, "It's okay, mommy," And I think my sort of moment of awakening was one day, random day, I stepped out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and I was just, the shower, it turns it all beady, the water droplets. And I was just looking at it and my face was sort of distorted, and I was just like, I don't know you, I don't know who you are. And then I just kind of wiped down the mirror just a little bit and I looked at myself and I realized, this is me, no matter what this reflection is coming back, whether I feel like I know her or not, whether I feel like I like her or not, whether I feel like I don't like where she is or not, this is me. This is my one vessel. This is my one life, my one journey. What are we going to do right now about this right now? And I remember I kissed myself in the mirror and I cried. And I just wrote the words, "I love you," in the rest of this theme. And I just, from that moment on, I was like, I'm going to choose me. And I did. And so that kind of kickstarted my journey. And then I started getting more into the spiritual aspects of it. And I became a Reiki Master. And, you know, that was over almost 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's been a while, but yeah, that's kind of how my journey towards my, my path that I'm on now came into play. And then as I started building those tools and learning and growing more, I started teaching other people and sharing it with other people, because the results are they're really easy to recreate when you have that support or that knowing or that knowledge, even if it's just a book. You know, it's the smallest things can change us in the most amazing ways. So yeah, that's pretty much my my journey to where I am now.
I love that. The smallest things can change us in the most amazing ways. That's beautiful. And that gets a yes. So you found yourself on this path and you started to teach others, and you came into alchemy. So let's talk about what that looks like from a practical standpoint. So if I'm trying to alchemize, let's say, lack into abundance, where would I start?
That's a really, really good question. So when you, in the whole process of alchemy, okay, like me personally, like I said, is super old school. I really do believe in the laws of nature and all of that. So whenever you're experiencing something, the first thing that you really have to know, believe, and understand is that because you are experiencing this, that means that there is also the possibility for you to experience something else. It can't be. It's the law of polarity. You can't have the North Pole without the South Pole. It's there already. It's just a matter of you being able to see that and kind of travel through that channel of energy. And so that's where, excuse me, that's where my process is kind of, come into play, where it's just you recognize that is a possibility for you. And then you start to break it down. Well, with that possibility being there, what exactly is that to me? So if you have lack and you understand that your abundance is there, it has to be because you're experiencing this, then what does that look like? What is that? What does your north look like? And you have to really decide that. And I think that a lot of people feel like they know what they want, and it's repeated over and over. And even I would roll my eyes of course, duh, but really determining what it is that you require, I don't even want to say want, that you require in order to feel happy. So for someone that might be a 10K month, and that might truly be their north, but for you, it might not even be that. It might be something else. So you have to decide, what are the things that you really require in order to be happy? And then that's when you can start really maneuvering the energy around that, because you know exactly where you're going. You can build that roadmap there. And it's a more soulful and in-depth process that way. It's not just think until it happens, or think until it gets right. You're more intentional about it, because that's how you become a powerful creator. You begin to co-create with the universe instead of hoping and wishing that the universe simply delivers. So yeah, the alchemy is a bit more spiritually hands-on, I guess.
Yeah. So you were saying you co-create, you don't just think about it, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of us think we have to do is figure it out. If I can just figure this out, if I can just focus on it hard enough and do the right things externally, it will happen. But what you're saying is that, it's more of a co-creation. So can you unpack that a little bit more?
Yes. And I like what you said just now, because that's a really big deal, especially for entrepreneurs, because I know in the beginning of my journey, that was a really hard thing for me to not understand why I was not breaking through. So I was doing all of the things. I had the funnels and the step-by-steps, and I hired coaches, and I did all of this. And like, why is it not working for me? You know, you start to feel like something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
But what happens is, like, when I say co-creation, right? So I like to say within us, we all have what I call our God essence, right? Our soul. Mm-hmm. And that is the most potent and most powerful parts of us, right? So we in that way, we kind of, there's a quote that says, like, be creative and in that way become playmates with God. I don't remember exactly what that was, but that's kind of what made me come to this conclusion I'm about to share with you now. But we have this part in us that has the ability to completely control and manipulate our existence, right? And then you have that outside of yourself, which is God, spirit, universe, you know, however you want to call that, whatever you'd like to call that higher power. And so what happens is when you tap into your God essence, you begin to know and understand things. You connect with the God mind. And so your intuition comes to play. You begin to know exactly like what channels to take. You're on the right path. It's easier for you. So for me in the beginning, I was trying to teach things that weren't my path and my purpose. And I was doing it right. But because I wasn't tuned into my soul blueprint, my God essence, I wasn't in the right channel. And so there was this constant disconnect. And I was connected to that spirit, you know, without, but not within. And that's another thing in alchemy, you know, it's like as without, so within. And so, you know, it's really a matter of merging both of those aspects together to create the results that you want to create.
That's so beautiful. You weren't in the right channel. You were doing the right things, but because it wasn't reflective of your true north, to take back, you know, your analogy from earlier, things were harder. So let's talk about that a little bit. You know, when it comes to specifically your relationship with money, has that always been, you know, on point, or have you had, you know, struggles in that realm?
No, it has not always been on point. And I'm not going to lie, it's still not perfect, you know?
It's a journey.
Yeah, it's just like, it's always a journey. And the thing with money is that I find that most people, it's not really an issue with money that they have. It's an issue with power. And particularly for us women, we aren't like really brought up to be powerful or to see ourselves as powerful in the most of the time.
Yes.
And it's really hard for us to assert that without feeling a certain way or feeling like we're worthy of that. And I think that once we come to terms with, you know, our own power and being able to assert that in the world, we kind of open up that channel to receiving money and healing that a little bit more. And that's why I said, like, even for me, it's not always perfect.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like this internal struggle, but you the first time you do it, you know, like you begin to manifest more. And the first time even just in business, the first time you make a sale, I don't even care if it's $27, it changes something in you. And you say, oh, wait a minute, I can do this, you know? And so like, I think that that's the biggest thing is like not necessarily only healing the thoughts and the beliefs around money, but also around power and how that is affecting you in the creation process.
I love that because it's an energy. Money is not, you know, it's not the enemy. It's none of that. It is just an energy that's very related to power. So with that, you know, what are some things that you have done that you found one is obviously like making a sale and doing the do. I think that obviously adds to your confidence. It shifts things, like you said. Are there some other things that you practice that help you tap into your power?
Mm-hmm. So there is like this, whenever I would have, when I was taking one-on-one clients, I just recently stopped doing that. But when I was taking one-on-one clients, I would do like what most people would call a discovery session.
Yes.
But those who felt like they couldn't afford to work with me, you know, I would do a manifestation session. And so they'd be like, oh, I don't really know what like if I can manifest this. And I was like, the only way that you can know for sure that you can do it is to just do it. So let's go ahead and just do it. And so there are actually 3 things that I do suggest, or, that I think that really help people to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing is to, like I said, really get a clear understanding of your true north. And that's actually like in chapter 1 of my book, which I'm gifting to everyone watching this. So in chapter 1, there is a section called Initiating Desire. And I put that first because, it gives you that clear picture, knowing exactly what you want. Exactly, and that's like the thing, like, okay, I need $3,000 for this down payment. Okay, we know exactly what it is we want. We have that fire. We understand the energy. We know for certain that this is what we want. And then the second thing is actually realizing that because, you can't have 2 things in one space, like we were talking about alchemy. So you can't have abundance and lack at the same time, right? They're on opposite ends of the pole. And so you have to release one in order to be in another. Mm. And so going through like releasing work, and one thing that I do practice, and it's super simple, but I always suggest every single person do this, clients, friends, everybody. Every single day, I have what I like to call like a receiving and a releasing list. So I have like a journal. I've got a book right here. So you like open up a journal, and it's smaller than, of course, but one side you just like, today I release, today I receive. And so like, I just think back over my day, like all of the things that we could unintentionally hold on to, like somebody did something in traffic and it pissed you off. And like, sometimes those things can burn us up inside. Like I release that. And in return, on that same line, I receive divine peace, or what, it doesn't even have to be worded beautifully, but I do that every single day. And what I find is that this allows me to keep my energy clear without always having to drudge up all of like past things. And because sometimes I feel like, we can pick at old scars.
Yes.
Doing that. And it's not, really always that necessary. And so like the whole releasing thing. So understanding and then releasing. And then the third thing is just tune in and like consciously tuning in. I don't mean just like, like, okay, I'm learning how to work this intuition thing, but no, like really make an effort to consciously tune in. Okay, God, I'm right here. What can you tell me right now? Because that this is what I want. This is what I require right now to help me live my best life so that I can go out and, do what I'm meant to do. What do you have for me right now? What can I know? Please tell me, tell me, like ask, like be proactive about it. And then you can do things like automatic writing. There are a ton, again, of intuitive techniques and things like that in the book. There's, a bit on automatic writing, how to use a pendulum. There's a pendulum mat in there with an answer guide. Like there's all sorts of things.
Beautiful.
And actively, tune in. And from there, you begin to take actions and do all the physical things. But I think as far as the internal things, that's something that it's not like perfect and complete, but it really is like it's all encompassing, and it gives you the perfect foundation to start.
I love that. And I love it especially because it feels like, it feels like a co-creation, because like you said, it's not just going back to like that one memory, that one time where you were hurt and pained, and then, pulling that up, and that there's a place for that. But what about the day-to-day stuff that every single day can come in and threaten us and can take our energy? And I love that you just really create a daily practice to give you that place to really like tap back into your power and listen and consciously, intentionally. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And the really, another really good thing about that exercise is that after a while, it kind of becomes an exercise of gratitude.
Yes.
What I've begun to notice over, the years of doing is that every day I don't sit down. I don't really have much to release. I'm like, yeah, that happened, but I'm okay with that. Like you learn to process things as they happen as you go. Right. And so I sit down and like, that's something to be really grateful for. And so then it kind of turns into like, an exercise of gratitude. And it's just amazing how small things like that can really help you become more aware over time. It really helps you learn how to shift energy. Kind of master that energy shifting.
Become an alchemist.
Yes.
Master alchemist. Oh, I love that. And I find that, you know, that is definitely the shift that starts to happen as we go on this journey, where we become so present in the moment that we even catch ourselves like as it's happening, and we see how, oh, this experience was exactly what I needed, even though it made me uncomfortable, even though it was not what I wanted, you know, from an ego perspective. It becomes so much easier to be like, oh no, this is what I need right now, even though maybe I don't want it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just to bring it back to that first step of getting like a really clear picture of what it is that you want, I think that is one of the things that a lot of people actually struggle with, which is so funny. Like you said, you know, that doesn't seem like the hard thing, but when we aren't 100% sure on what we want, then we're sending out this diffused energy. So what are some tips that you have for like really helping people ground into their intention? Like you had mentioned having like a $3,000 month, like that's a great intention to set. What are some other tips for people to kind of make sure that their desires are very clear?
Yes. So that's a really good question. So I'm going to keep this like geared towards money, because there are a ton of different ways that can go. So when it comes to money, like people think like, well, how do I know what I should, what I should ask for, or what I require? Think about what you actually need. Mm-hmm. Like right now, it's so easy to look far off into the future, but what happens when we project, we take ourselves out of like right now. Mm-hmm. And the person that we are at that moment might feel so far from where we are now that there's something within us that doesn't believe that it's possible.
Yes.
And so you want to have that full on faith. So just think about right now, like, what is it that you actually need right now in this moment? Like, how much is your light bill every month? How much is your rent? How, like just the technical things, like, okay, so you need $3,000 to pay, your bills. Okay. Yeah. Now what is required for you to, to feel good? And what happens is that people almost get a look of relief after doing that, because it's like, I don't have to manifest 10K a month to be successful. Right. I don't have to do that. Thank God, that felt really hard, and you feel all this pressure because we see so many things that are really beautiful, like there's so many beautiful things in the world, and so many things that, maybe in a few months, once you've made your 4K or 5K, in a few months, you can see that.
Yes.
And it might even happen, like
right.
in a time frame that you didn't even expect it. But those are the kind of shifts that happen when you just when you don't feel pressured, and you allow what you are really wanting and really asking for to come through to you.
Beautiful.
If you remove that anxiety around it, that disbelief, there's no internal rebellion around it. And it makes it that much easier to manifest. So anyway, I'm sorry, rambling. Back to the
rambling. That was powerful. I love that, because like you said, it's so easy to like put yourself in this, oh, I have to do this big, huge thing. And then you have an internal voice that's going, that's not possible. Because I think of it this way. Like I think with manifestation, it's almost easy to think like, oh, I can just eat whatever I want and be skinny because I'm thinking about it the right way, right? Like, oh, if my vibration's high enough, and I think that's like what people think. Like we buy.
I love that so much,
and it's so silly, but it's true. I think where we're like, oh well, I can do a 10,000 month when I've never ever made a sale ever, and that's the problem. We have to find that like what feels like a stretch enough that we're out of our comfort zone, but comfortable enough that we're not, like you said, having an internal rebellion and just blocking the crap out of it before we get out of the gate.
Right. And then it's like, and I like to tell people, it's not that it's impossible, because you can do that. I've seen people create a goal of making 3 or 4K a month and make like 8, just because they were open enough to let it happen. But it's just like, I mean, even if you did all the right things, it's just, like you said, it's just a stretch, and you don't see yourself. And that's one of the things that I feel like people really need to be able to do when they set a goal, is be able to, what I call, bridge the gap. And so like, that's another exercise that's in the book, but where you see yourself at the end of that journey of your goal, obtaining your goal, and you see the differences. Like you look like, well, what is required of me right now or how is that person different from me right now? And you can see and understand that. And you like write it down literally. Well, you start to work to become that person, because the alchemy is internal. Remember, it's that co-creation, that God essence. And so you begin to really work on the self, because it's not really about the thing at all. It's about your power to create it. And so it's like, if you can't bridge that gap, if you feel like it's too far and it's too much and it's too big, it's too not possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point.
I love that. It's not about the thing you want. It's about your power to create it. That's what we're focused on. And I think that just takes it from this like external, pie in the sky dream to bringing it really truly into who we are. And it takes the responsibility and it puts it squarely on our shoulders, which is where all the power is. So that's beautiful. I'm so excited for people to hear this. This is just amazing. So those of you who are watching at home, like, I hope you're taking notes, because I am like, look at my.
And also I will say about that as well, like the whole bridging the gap thing, like that really helps with people also who deal with depression and anxiety and things like that. Because like, I know personally for me, and this is speaking from personal experience, someone who is depressed or experiences anxiety, we get incredibly overwhelmed, and we tend to be like the people who have procrastination issues and all of that, like the worst. So not only does it keep you kind of motivated, but it also brings all of the joy of that one thing that you want into right now. If you want that 10K month, if that is what you are truly going for, and you can see that person as they are now, and you begin to bridge that gap, and every day you can feel yourself become that person inside, you fall in love with that journey. It gives you something to wake up for. You're motivated. It feels really good. And so it brings all of the joy of that into the now, and you're not putting all of your joy off into some future destination.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yes. Brings the joy into the now, because that's something that I think for all of us, it's that thought of like, I'll be happy when, I'll be fulfilled when I lose 10 pounds, when I've got, like the right clothes, when I've got the right attitude, when I have 10 grand in the bank, whatever it is, and we're taking that person and becoming them every single day. And it gives you this sense of accomplishment too, because every single little step you take is bringing you closer to that. So you can look back and go, okay, this is everything I've already done up to this point to get myself just that step closer. And that's joyful. Like you said, it makes you feel excited to
winning.
Yes. Well, Ananda, you are just such a wealth of wisdom and, just such a ray of light. And I'm so grateful that I found you and that, you're here sharing this. So let's talk about your book, because you're giving it away for free. That's incredible.
Yes, super excited about
it. And I have no qualms about that. I love that I did.
Right. Able to receive.
Exactly.
Yes. So the book is The Alchemy of Miracles, like you said, and I have like a light here, so I hope that you can see that. But yeah, and so like I like to say that this is not just a book, and it is a full-on experience, because like every chapter, it has like guided meditations, exercises. There are things like when you access the book, I'm just going to show you a few things in here that you can print off and keep. Like there are rituals. So this is a releasing ritual. When you read the book, you'll see, like, I'm really big on releasing work, because that's where like the alchemy, I say releasing is the catalyst for receiving.
Yes.
So there's like a karma, like clearing your cash karma section, just energetic exercises. And as I was saying before, like with the intuition thing, there's like a whole section in here on that. Just to show you guys, like,
there's a pendulum mat. That's awesome.
Yeah, like a ton of printables. I'm not going to show you everything, but I feel like, it's just a nice treasure trove of information. Like if you're looking to bring more spirituality in your manifestation process and just really tune into that power and understanding, like you can create it, you can do it. There is no reason why you can't. And yeah, just helping you to see that and to pull in more energy that helps you to know that for yourself.
I love that. And it's such a beautiful book. I love that so they're not good. The free gift is an ebook. And then if they choose to, they can purchase, the actual, you have actual physical books.
I do have an actual physical book that they can purchase. But when you download the ebook, I mean, all of the principles, everything, like it's all available. There is no difference from this book to that. And then a lot of times, like I love just I'm just a paper nerd. I'm
a huge paper nerd too.
Yeah. And so, but like even still, I haven't torn anything out of this. I print them off because there's crystal grids in here that I will always use.
Yeah.
And so like I just print them off because I don't want to mess up my book.
Right.
Yeah, so you get all of everything. There's no difference in the books. So.
Oh, thank you so much for providing that and for all the work you do to, shift the consciousness of the planet and help people transform their lives.
Awesome. It is my pleasure, my purpose. So I'm just grateful to be here with you. Thank you again for having me. I was really excited.
I'm so happy. And I'm just excited to continue to work with you and to still have you in my life because I feel really blessed to have met you, Ananda. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.